Hello, this is Lorelei with Radiate Life with Lorelei, and I'm calling in today, um, calling myself out today. We're talking about dreams, and specifically I want to introduce the concept of using dream symbology to interpret your dreams and also to interpret your life. So imagine that you're in a dream time, sleeping, and you get to fly. You get to go to places that you've only imagined in your wildest dreams. And you take all that collective information with you, and you wake up in the morning and you realize that you're back in your body and that you'll have to wait again until you go back to sleep before you can imagine flying, imagine having all the amazing food that you want to have, and having seen all the amazing people that you want to see, and having those amazing experiences. So here you are in your morning, and here you are in your life, and you walk out of your house and you see a beautiful landscape. But it's beautiful landscape is your home, it's your yard, it's your car, it's your neighborhood, it's your street, it's everything there like it was the day before. But what's different is you, and what's different is your perspective and your opportunity to have your eyes wide open, your heart wide open, and to see from your own unique vantage point. Whether it's in the dream time, sleeping, inner world, or in your waking, dreaming, outer world. So I've used dream interpretation symbols, mostly the universal language of mind, as taught by the School of Metaphysics since 1990. However, like most people, before I started taking a class as an adult and learning about dream interpretation, I had dreams, and I could remember my dreams, and I had inclinations, I had ideas about how to use my dreams. I never really thought about reading a book or taking classes. It's not something that people that I knew at that time in my life did, or I didn't have that example to follow. But I did have dreams that were, attention-getting, they were guttural, they really shook me up, and I didn't enjoy going to sleep at night because I knew those dreams would come up again. So I was introduced to dream interpretation, and when I was introduced to dream interpretation, I was completely fascinated because I'd had a whole list of dreams that during, I was about 25 years old, I had just turned 25, that I had all these really like terrifying dreams, fire and death and mayhem, and it really scared me. And I walked into this class, and they said, well, what do you want to do? You want to learn to interpret dreams? Do you have dreams you remember, you don't remember? And I'm like raising my hand. And I said, I want to learn how to stop having terrifying dreams. It's like, so you want to stop having dreams? I'm like, only the ones that terrify me, you know? But I did literally walk into class with the goal of ending my dreams, if that's what it meant to not have those dreams anymore. So we were introduced to dream interpretation, and the first thing that somebody did was to interpret a dream, like one of these dreams that I'd had. They were like, okay, give me a dream and let me interpret it for you. So I told them the dream, and they interpreted it, and they said what the symbols of that dream meant. And I listened to it, and I went, wow, that is so true. I was an adult child of alcoholics, and I went to that 12-step program. And I was at a point in my own healing when I said, when can I stop this, focus on the 12-step all the things that are going on. When do I get to live my life? Because I was in my 20s, and I wanted to move on with my life, and I wanted to not focus so much on healing as I did creating. Like, when do I ever get to feel whole, perfect, and complete, you know? And my counselor at the time was really, really amazing, because my counselor stood with me side by side as I stepped out of was a very chaotic and a very intense, mentally, emotionally, physically abusive time in my life. And the reason why I'm talking about this is because why am I talking about this? I'm talking about it because it was one of the first times in my life where I really hit something head on, because I'd asked my family, don't you want to be well? Don't you want to be better? And they said, no, we want you to stop talking about it. I was like, all right, well, I'm concerned that what you do may hurt somebody, may hurt yourself, and if you can't think about that, it might hurt someone else. And their reply was, I think you should stop talking about it and minding your own business. And I thought, wow, that is crushing. This is like totally crushing. I love this person. I'm hoping this person, you know, would have a I don't know, change of heart. I don't know, I want to say naive, but I was very hopeful. I've always been kind of a hopeful person that maybe just didn't hear it the right way. Maybe just you need to snap out of it and wake up. You know, it certainly happened to me before. And when I realized that the thing that I most needed to do was to take responsibility for myself. You know, 18, 19 years old, it was time to say, I want to go to college. I'm going to go to college to get my degree. And that means that, and I have to leave the house. I have to support myself. I have a high school degree, but I worked ever since I was really young. I always really enjoyed working because it gave me money in my pocket. It gave me freedom. And my parents paid to send me to a private all-girls school because the school that I was in was full of gangs and violence, and they didn't want me, even though it was a couple blocks away from my house, they didn't want me to go there. So everything else was on me, as far as spending money and clothes. And I love that. I enjoyed that. Like, I thought, this is my life. I'm totally capable of babysitting, of working a job when I turned 16, and I really enjoyed the freedom, and I knew it was worth working for. And I did. I put myself through college because I worked for a couple of different companies, and I ended up working for Hewlett Packard, and I worked there for like 6 years and got promoted 3 times. And it wasn't the complete picture because I really wanted to teach, and I couldn't at that time because it was Hewlett Packard, and I was a trainer, and it was like it had to be in alignment with my job that I wanted. And so I did. I went into marketing because of the psychology, and I had a background in science. Why am I saying all this? Well, because some of these things, as we become adults and move into our own life, they're not apparent. You know, what made that person? How did that person get a start? You look at somebody and you say, we imagine what happened in their life. And I don't want you to imagine what happened in my life. I want you to know that what happened in my life is real, and it took a lot of grit, and it took a lot of hard work to get through that. It's not all rainbows and butterflies, and I have a great, amazing inner life. I have a great, amazing outer life. It is something that I don't take for granted. It's not something that I just allow myself to flow with whatever tide is out in society or is on the media at night, that it actually requires time, attention, self-love to figure out who we are and what we want to do and to be strong. And sometimes it is very lonely being a leader. We're a leader of ourselves. We're a leader so that we can have the opportunities that we want to have, and that none of that is guaranteed. And I think that's a really important thing to do. It's an important thing to honor. I don't know what it is within me But I spent most of my life hiding exactly how hard I worked for things and how dedicated I was. And somehow I know a couple of different things about why I did this, but I always hid exactly how much required of me in order to maintain the life that I wanted, in order to build the kind of life that I wanted. And I'm just going to say that it wasn't exactly what wasn't. So what people told me and what I learned about karma and dharma, it didn't exactly play out that way in my life. And now looking at my life and reviewing my life, I accepted it, yes, but there was some other dynamic that was going on in life. And it was that I actually chose a life that was going to push me. It wasn't a karmic, you have a debt to pay, because I spent the first 20 years of my life saying, I need to serve more people. I need to help the animals. I need to stop child abuse, which is all still true, and women being abused. I need to stop the wrongs in the world. I need to stop the addictions in the world. You know, there was all the make the insanity stop. How do we find the solution? How do we help the people? How do we live the kind of life we want to live? You know, and I had a great passion for people and animals and the planet. And it took a long time for me, because I spent, again, most of my life saying, what did I do in a past life? You know, what could I have possibly done in an existence that I would deserve this kind of outcome in my life, these kinds of things in my life? And so I tried really hard of giving of myself and like I said, learning and like feeling like I have something to make up for. I don't know what I did, but I'm really sorry I did it. And it just kept going on, and it really made me feel like I was lacking in self-worth. People would say, well, you know, Lorelei, look at your childhood. You know, if you're a spiritual person, how could a spiritual person end up in a house like that? Or, you know, those things that are being done to you, that's because you were an abusive person in your past life. And I thought, I just can't be true. How can that be true? And I, you know, got pulled into a couple of very intense spiritual communities that were about giving away your power in order to help other people live their dreams. It was very service oriented. It was a very big mind trip for those individuals who really felt that they needed to give of the world, and that meant self-sacrifice in the way that your own hopes and dreams and desires are used against you. And even within what was being taught at that time, and I feel confident still being taught, that, you know, if you had a life it was abusive, if you were abused, if it was a poor environment, like all these things, like that's because that's all you deserved. That's your karma, and you just better try to get a better birth the next lifetime. And I really, really tried to see it that way, and I really, really tried to do the best that I could. And I, what happened? Well, what happened is I started to grow, and I started to have my own family, and I started to realize that, you know, my children didn't have the same kind of childhood that I had. Like they definitely made sure that I was there, literally physically there, to care for them and not allow anyone to hurt them and not allow other people to fill their mind with things and to have this close relationship. And it really dawned on me that as they grew, that it wasn't their karma that brought us together, that it was actually our dharma. And I forget exactly, I'll have to sit down and exactly figure out how this happened. But what had happened is I know, okay, so I began to say, I accept that if that is what other people think life is about, and that's what karma is about, I accept that other people think that. But I don't have to believe that myself. And that was kind of like the first gap, the first separation, the first tear in the fabric, where I said, it's okay, you might believe that, but I know me, and I know my life, and I know what I'm capable of, and I know what I've done. And again, there's this part of me that felt I had to hide how hard I worked, how deeply I thought, how much I cared, because those things just kept getting used against me and against me and against me. And I thought, gosh, I'm trying to make this a better place because I did something horrible, and then just not happening. People just not receptive to this. And it was, again, mostly in my own family, mostly at a very young age, mostly in my early 20s. And at some point, years later, I was in a class, and each person in the class received an Akashic reading. And that Akashic reading, I'm trying to think of which one it was. Well, it was about Dharma. That's right. Dharma. So there were probably 12 people in the class, and some people shared their readings, some people didn't. And it's totally an optional thing. Sometimes you don't want to share it, sometimes you do. I get it. So those individuals who wanted to share it, and there were those who wanted to talk about it. And I wasn't one of the first people to share, but I listened, and I could not believe how many people in that class, spiritual people, people who were using their time and attention to grow themselves and give to the world and create that relationship, people that I had known on certain levels, and they were talking about the kinds of childhoods that they had, and about the abuse that went on, and about how one or both parents were not available or were abusive. And I just was in complete shock, because I'd never been around so many people that had been so aware of that kind of, like, I just kind of no other way to say it, abuse in relationship, abuse of children, mental, emotional, physical abuse. And then they would share, well, what is it about that lifetime? What is it about this particular person that in their dharma, that they started off in those, what we would say, really dark experience, not something that we would say that all of our good karma bought us. And it said that they came into their families to heal their families. They came into their families to give and to share and to grow with what they had. And that really bottom line was, it didn't matter whether the families received them and used that to change. They brought in potential and possibility. They were giving more to the family and the DNA in the family than they were really to learn from the family, or to they were there to change, right? They were change makers. They were disruptors. And that is the thing that I had a hard time with, disruptors. I met some people, and she's like, I'm a disruptor. I'm like, well, I don't know about you, but most of the disruptors I've seen, it's usually through violence, or it's through some kind of action, which actually it's questionable of how much good, how much harm did that action bring about. So I really realized that I was a disruptor, and I didn't mean to be a disruptor. I showed up, I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm a disruptor. Oh, are you being triggered by me? Because here I am living my life, handling life, not being afraid to roll up my sleeves, not being afraid to call the truth, because there's just no way anyone's going to mute me anymore, that I'm living the life the way that I want to live my life. And here I was again in this room with all these people, person after person. It said, this person lights up a room by their presence. And then you'd be like, really? And it was not like someone who walks into a room and is like a social butterfly. Of course, that's fine if that's who you are. But this person was a very kind of settled person, more of what we might call an introspective person, an introverted person. And it said, you don't have to stand up and talk about a revolution. Your very presence, your very living creates change. It brings wholeness and health to the situation, to the group, to the people. You living you and doing you, and then expressing, sharing, engaging, that's your gift. And like I said, there were 12 people, and those that shared just really, it fed my heart, because I felt the same way, and I'd never seen anyone or known anyone and heard Akashic readings that was the same way. So that was a really true to heart. So if you're one of those people, if you're like me, I call us assertive, calm, assertive. I call us sensitive. We're sensitive. We might be the truth seekers, but maybe a softer way of saying I'm sensitive to all possibilities. I see all potential, and I'm willing to be the bridge of unification. I'm willing to be the bridge of resilience, not by having to make someone see my way, but by the way I conduct my life, by my point of view. I willingly contribute to the world in the ways in which those waves are going to move. Some of them create tsunamis, and some of them create very gentle, smooth, light ripples. I'm unattached to which way it comes, because whatever it is we need, it is what we are going to be given. So I just wanted to share that with you. I wanted to share a different perspective on what you might have heard karma is. Not everybody who is here in that station, if you want to say, or situation, is there because of a let's say very static way of looking what karma is. The opposite of karma is dharma. And so dharma is what we are here to bring to the world, what we are here to open up in the world, what we are here to contribute to and grow and to bring extra life to. So if there's karma and we see that as static, then dharma becomes static. And we know that dharma evolves. The dharma of the individual, the dharma of the group. And what happens is the dharma of spiritual traditions, if it doesn't grow, then it becomes obsolete. Okay? If it doesn't grow, then it starts to become, then it starts to take on the ways of the world, because it's not growing in the dimensions that it needs to be growing. So if you look at karma as static, oh, it's only what I deserve, what I've had from my existence, then dharma becomes static. Follow what everyone's followed before. Only follow the tried and true paths. Static, 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 static. And we've gotten ourselves into the situation we are, where people are controlled and manipulated and don't know their own perception, because they're so influenced by others. And so then what happens when we see karma is dynamic? Karma is dynamic. Sometimes the reason, and I'm talking about a real deep spiritual karma, the blueprint of why we're here. There's many different reasons why individuals are here. And if you are within the sound of my voice, if you are seeing this video, I have to say, I betcha you're in my group. I betcha that you are one of those individuals who's like, I see that world and I'm going to go down there and I'm going to contribute. I feel like what I have, I'm going to go in there, I'm going to help, we're going to open things up, we're going to work together. And that may or may not happen, but we didn't come here to say it has to happen in the way that I see it. We came to contribute. And that's what we have in the way of karma. And in the way of dharma is saying, I want to grow that part of the world. I want to grow so all children flourish. I want to grow so that all soil is pristine and amazing. I want to grow so that the governments are growing with the people and with the environment and with the education, and that we're all growing together. I want to live in the world where research isn't done with the motivation of how to make something that helps people, but in the meantime, it also hurts people. And we try to minimize the effects and maximize the profits, right? And meanwhile, many individuals who need that assistance, it's an emergency type of medicine. It ties them into this hamster wheel. So it's, again, it's getting to that creative place before we have that solution of saying it's not good enough. There has to be something where we can all come together and work and form groups together and help us as individuals, help everybody, and make it equitable for everybody, make it compassionate for everybody, and to really live in a world where every single person gets to live from their soul's desire, the spirit's desire, and that we work together. We work together. And that we hold ourselves responsible so that other people don't have to hold us responsible. So I'll just leave it there. Thank you for listening. Have a beautiful day. And if you can't have a beautiful day, find something to make joyful. Find one good thing in your life today, and that will manifest tenfold.